we come too late to do no more than visualize the splendor of creation's birthday.
It's beautiful. Who knows, maybe I'll go back in time and change it.
If you could travel back in time, when would you go back to?
When I was happiest, maybe 6 or 7 years old.
In her prime, Teri Hatcher was one of the most beautiful women on TV. She, to me, resembled Gia Korenji a lot. And I did a video for Gia Korenji, which was a supermodel that died way too soon. You guys should check that video out. But they kind of favored each other in Vanity. You know, I did a video for Vanity also. Denise Matthews, who was with Prince, who passed. I don't know. That's kind of what it's giving. Comment below if you guys can see it or if you're like, Kareen, you're tripping. Just wait, some pictures really does give that off. But anyway, she was one of the most beautiful women on TV, and she had a pretty long career. Although she is known for her stint on Desperate Housewives, she was also a Bond girl. She played Lois in the Superman series. She also did voice acting. So many accolades that she has to her name. But many people don't know that Teri Hatcher was actually one of the most hated cast members on Desperate Housewives. All her other castmates really just didn't like her. She only probably had like 1 or 2 people that really liked her, would vouch for her from Desperate Housewives. And also, as a Bond girl, the actor who played James Bond didn't really like her either. Though he said he was kind of mean to her, it was like she kept me waiting. She was a little bit of a diva. So she had that reputation behind the scenes. And Nicolette Sheridan called her the meanest woman in the world. We're going to get into all of that. Like, why was that? So we're going to get into all of that more, but we're going to get into her childhood, which is, she had a pretty tragic childhood as well. Her illustrious career. And why now? Are the tabloids calling her homeless? What is going on with Teri Hatcher? But before I get into this first, hey friend, welcome to my channel, Kareen Allude, where we break down and deep dive the most iconic stars to history. If you're not yet subscribed, please be sure to do so. And if you're already subscribed, please turn on your notification bell so you never miss an upload. Now, without further ado, let's get into this video. Let's start first with her childhood. She was born on December 8, 1964 in sunny Palo Alto, California. She seemed like the quintessential golden girl. She was the only child of Esther Besher, a brainy computer whiz at Lockheed Martin, and Owen Walker Hatcher Jr., a nuclear physicist with a serious pedigree. So she came from a pretty wealthy background. Teri had Welsh, French, German, and Syrian roots. A real melting pot. Little Hatcher danced her way through childhood with ballet lessons at the San Juan School of Dance and later hit the books at De Anza College, diving into math and engineering. But behind that picture-perfect facade, things were way darker than you'd expect. In a shocking twist, in March 2006, she came out with allegations that her uncle by marriage, Richard Hayes Stone, had been taking advantage of her since she was just 5 years old. And you guys know I'm filtering because of YouTube, so take a wild guess by what I mean by taking advantage, touching her without her consent and, doing things to her. Stone got a divorce by Hatcher's aunt after the scandal broke, but the damage was done. She claimed her parents had no clue about the situation that was happening with her and her uncle, and it wasn't until 2002 that she stepped up to help prosecutors nail Stone for a different crime involving another young girl who tragically took her own life at just 14. Stone eventually pleaded guilty to 4 counts of child sensual, and got slapped with a 14-year sentence. Hatcher was haunted by the thought of that poor girl and feared that Stone might slip through the cracks. Stone died from colon cancer on August 19, 2008, after only serving 6 years.
The daughter of a computer programmer and a nuclear physicist, Teri Hatcher burst into the public consciousness back in 1993 as Superman's #1 admirer in Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman. In March 2006, she brought the issue of to the fore in an interview with Vanity Fair. By revealing that she had been abused by her uncle from the age of 5, she came forward in 2002 to assist prosecutors in indicting her uncle for a more recent violation led his 14-year-old victim to suicide.
I think coming forward about what went on with me with abuse and being able to put that man in prison, selfishly, I guess, for me, very healing.
Teri Hatcher posted an open letter to Donald Trump on Instagram detailing the sex she endured as a 5-year-old. The post was a response to Trump mocking Dr. Christine Blasey Ford's testimony against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Mr. President, I'd like to take this opportunity to weigh in on the process of recalling a sexual. Sadly, myself and then decades later, teenager Sarah Van Klimpert were the same man, she continued. She committed I battled demons.
Hatcher later admitted that the whole ordeal left her feeling ashamed because it felt like I was special. The abuse went on until she was around 8 or 9, and everything blew up one night during dinner when Stone was at the table. Hatcher said she went ballistic, and her mom, sensing something was off, finally put some distance between them and Stone. But here's the kicker, they never actually talked about it, leaving Hatcher feeling like it was all her fault. She coped by completely ignoring her mom's side of the family, acting like they didn't even exist. Fast forward to her acting career, where she really flipped the script. She started studying acting at the American Conservatory Theater and became an NFL cheerleader for the San Francisco 49ers in 1984.
Parents were brainy types. Dad, a physicist, Mom, a computer programmer. So, of course, Teri became a cheerleader for the San Francisco 49ers.
Then came her breakout role as Amy, one of the showgirls on The Love Boat from 1985 to 1986, followed by a memorable run as the chatty Penny Parker on MacGyver. She even popped up in Star Trek: The Next Generation.
And thank you for beaming me here and enabling me to see a truly beautiful woman.
Well, I'm sure you've said that to many ladies before, and it was no more true then than it is now.
But it's how I say it that's really important.
And she guest starred in Quantum Leap, but it wasn't until she landed the role of Lois Lane in Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman from 1993 to 1997 that she became a household name.
You were on the news?
I wasn't on the news.
Are you saying you weren't at that anti-Superman demonstration last night?
What? Of course not. I was home eating chocolate. Cottage cheese. Chocolate-flavored cottage cheese.
Hi. I just want to give you girls a tip. See, Lenny told me that he really likes his women, well, how should I say this? Smaller than the average milk cow. Should I be using smaller words? Look, girls, I don't want to hurt you.
Lois, is everything all right?
This is just so typical. You want a big story, you're disappointed, you think it's a simple frog napping, then Secret Service is involved. National security.
Yeah, a man doubted me this morning and,
I just love the wood you chose for these bookshelves. Is it cherry?
It came with the house.
Clark, there's a secret compartment behind this. Come x-ray it, see what's inside.
What? What?
We may have to kill them both tonight.
Bye, Carol.
Lois?
Clark.
In 1995, she was so hot that a pic of her rocking nothing but Superman's iconic red cape became the most downloaded image online for months. "It's a great shot," she said. "Not so much because it's me, it's just cool looking." She hosted Saturday Night Live in 1996 and snagged the role of Paris Carver in the 1997 James Bond flick Tomorrow Never Dies while 3 months pregnant.
I always wondered how I'd feel if I ever saw you again. Was it something I said?
How about the words, "I'll be right back"?
So, of course, in James Bond flick Tomorrow Never Dies, she, of course, was said to be much of a diva, kept everybody rating, but the thing was she was pregnant, so she had really bad morning sickness and she was throwing up a lot, which led to why they were waiting. So, I wouldn't hold that against her. Hatcher was crowned the world's sexiest woman by FHM readers in spring 1997 after snagging the number 4 spot the year before. She kept the sexy streak going, ranking high in their list for years. She even made waves in films like Spy Kids and played a villain in 2 Days in the Valley and Heaven's Prisoners, with Alec Baldwin, who didn't exactly set the box office on fire. Teri Hatcher snagged the role of Susan Mayer, beating out 4 other actresses in the process. It was a golden moment for her, literally. She took home the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy in January 2005 and later snagged a SAG award in the same category.
Desperate Housewives was born, and the self-described has-been, Teri Hatcher, playing the role of Susan, has become in a few short months Primetime's biggest star.
Our category is Best Actress in a TV Series.
And here are the nominees. Teri Hatcher, Desperate Housewives.
Felicity Huffman, Desperate Housewives.
Deborah Messing, Will and Grace.
And Sarah Jessica Parker, Sex and the City.
Teri Hatcher, Desperate Housewives.
First time ever nominated for anything in my whole life, so excuse me. You don't get anywhere like this by yourself. Worked with the most amazing group of powerful, strong, over 40, almost everybody women, except for the cute young one who eats a lot.
that happen a lot? You just wherever you go.
Wherever I go, people walk down the street. I love
When you walk down the aisle of like an airplane, men are like, "Oh
grocery
man."
stores. Yes.
Really?
No, that never happens to me.
By April 2006, she was cashing in big time as one of the highest paid actresses on TV, raking in a whopping $285,000 per episode. She was even nominated for an Emmy and a People's Choice Award. Sounds like a fairy tale, right? Well, hold on to your hats because the plot thickens. Rumors started swirling that all wasn't rosy in the land of suburban drama. Word on the street was that Teri didn't exactly play nice with her co-stars. Reports claimed she would intentionally keep her distance from the other ladies on set. When the cast graced the cover of Vanity Fair in 2005, the cover line said it all. You wouldn't believe what it took just to get this photo. Before the Vanity Fair shoot even kicked off, ABC production put a bizarre request in. Teri wasn't allowed to pick her wardrobe before the others, but Teri was having none of that. She reached out to the wardrobe team days in advance, making sure she was first in line. And when the other actresses arrived, surprise, Teri had already claimed her outfits. And that didn't sit well with Marcia Cross. Rumor has it, Marcia blew up at a production employee over it and was cursing on set and doing all of that. She was not happy. Things only got messier when it came time for the actual photo shoot. Disagreements erupted over who would stand where, and Marcia reportedly didn't even want to be near Teri in the picture. Tensions were so high that Teri allegedly took a breather and was found in tears on the phone. While it's hard to pinpoint exactly who was stirring the pot, many whispers suggested Teri was the queen of conflict among the ladies. Fast forward to 2019, and another Desperate Housewives star, Eva Longoria, hinted that one of her co-stars made her uncomfortable on set without naming names. But given the history, you can't help but wonder if Teri was the one making waves. Nicolette Sheridan didn't hold back, calling Teri the meanest woman in the world, while Longoria described her as a loner. And let's not forget about Mark Cherry, the show's writer and producer, who is said to be temperamental and not exactly fostering a friendly environment. While the rest of the cast bonded outside of filming, Teri kept to herself, which didn't help her case. Longoria once mentioned in a late-night interview how close she and the other girls were. -1.
First thing you need to know is that this is going on in present day, that people are saying that Teri Hatcher is terrible. This writer who recently wrote a book about working in Hollywood was a writer on Desperate Housewives, and she said her only goal to survive on Desperate Housewives, all the writers' goals, was to avoid Teri Hatcher during the table reads. There was no context on why or how that was a thing, but and that's the problem with the Teri Hatcher drama, is it's hard to explain because no one really explicitly says that she's terrible. It's all alluding, what NDA did her agent have everybody sign? And you can tell within Susan's acting and Susan as a character and the way that Susan's written, Susan's written purposely to be annoying, to be insufferable, and also she delivers every line like she's the most important person in the room. So the show's been over for years, life goes on, and then in 2019, Felicity Huffman gets herself in a scuffle with the college admission scandal. I'm sure most of you know that. Before the court went to trial, I believe that she needed people to write recommendation letters for her not to get a long prison sentence, and some of those people were Eva Longoria and Mark Cherry. Eva Longoria writes this touching letter about how Felicity helped her throughout a bad time on the set of Desperate Housewives when an actress was bullying her on the set, and she got really riddled with anxiety having to film with the actress, and Felicity stepped in and said, "Hey, stop bullying Eva. She's a great actress," and the bullying stopped, all because Felicity came to her rescue. And guys, who was it? It was Teri Hatcher, allegedly. And Mark Cherry corroborated the story, basically saying there was an actress on Desperate Housewives who was rude to everyone and impossible to work with, but Felicity made it work and was always nice to her no matter what. And if you don't believe me, there's literally a Desperate Housewives behind the scenes article on Us Weekly that pens all of this.
First season, which came out in 2004, was an instant hit, okay? And Teri Hatcher at that point, before the show came out, she was kind of considered the biggest star because she had been in James Bond and also Lois and Clark, she was a main character in that as well. So she was front and center, and apparently she was paid a higher amount than the rest of the ladies just to set up the context. After the first season is when they did this absolutely iconic Vanity Fair cover that had a lot of drama behind the scenes, for example Marcia Cross storming off set because she did not want Teri Hatcher to be front and center of the picture. Even though ABC's publicist and the rest of the cast did not want Teri Hatcher to be in the center of the cover, Vanity Fair went against their wishes and did a 2-page fold, so Teri Hatcher is still kind of in the center of the cover regardless, and literally Marcia Cross and Felicity Huffman are cropped. You have to unfold the cover to see them which is nuts. At this point, it's pretty clear that there's a trio forming and that they're not really close to Teri Hatcher. In 2006, the gorgeous and talented Marsha Cross got married, and she invited her besties. Teri Hatcher was not invited, okay? Do you guys remember when Nicolette Sheridan, who played Edie Britt, got kicked out of the show? Well, there was a whole trial around it because she accused Mark Cherry of like wrongful termination. During the trial, Mark Cherry revealed that Nicolette Sheridan said to him that Teri Hatcher was the meanest woman in the world. The thing is, Mark Cherry allegedly also had beef with Teri because he never named her, but he did say that there was a big star who had behavioral problems, and everyone assumes this was about Teri Hatcher. Now, at the end of 8 amazing seasons, they threw a party for the crew. And when I say they, it's Vanessa Williams and everyone else in this picture except for Teri Hatcher. For some reason, they excluded Teri Hatcher of like the gift, like the collective gift they gave to the crew. So it kind of seemed like, oh, like Teri Hatcher does not want to like give a parting gift to the amazing crew who like helped the show for 8 seasons. I don't know who I should believe when it comes to the crew not liking Teri Hatcher because so many people have said that. But Catherine Houston, like before she died, she gave a final interview, and in that interview, mind you, she knows she has cancer, she doesn't have long to live, she has nothing to lose, and she gave it to us straight, like Karen McCluskey would have done. And she basically said that Teri Hatcher was the friendliest one of the main ladies because she would always engage in a conversation with her. And now I'm not saying that you have to be best friends with her coworkers, but she did say that the other ladies were super dismissive of her. Now, she threw a Christmas party for the crew, Catherine Houston did, and said that the only person who contributed to it was Teri Hatcher, and she made a very generous contribution. So I don't know. To add another layer to that, Patty Lynn, who was a writer on the show, revealed that the crew would actively avoid Teri Hatcher, like even just eye contact. But Teri Hatcher, it's important to remember, she is a single mom, so her number one priority was spending time with her daughter at the time, who was super small. And Eva Longoria herself also said that like she would just like spend all her free time with her daughter because she wanted to be a present mother, which I think is great. And I just think sometimes it happens like that, you know, it's just the way it was. Like these three became besties. Teri Hatcher did her thing on the side. Maybe it's like some office politics came into play when it came to money, and because like they were all like so famous after the first season, that wasn't just like Teri Hatcher being the biggest star.
Rumored gossipy stuff that no one got along. How much of it was factual and how much we would now see is just like this narrative about women that there's like no way these women could get along.
Even back then it was a narrative about women because there was all these shows with men on the air and nobody was like, they're fighting. Exactly. But I was a baby too. Like Felicity and Marsha and Teri had all had hit shows. This was like another hit show. They had Melrose Place and Lois and Clark and Sports Night. And I remember when we were asked to be on Oprah and I was like, we're going to be on Oprah. Like I could have died that day. And all three of them were like, I've been on. I was like, oh, I mean, okay, yeah, it's totally cool.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. But meaning like they all had such a better handle on fame, on that narrative. I'm like, you guys are saying we're fighting. They're like, well, that's just a narrative that they do on women because we're over 40 in a television show. And I was like, yeah. I wasn't even that smart to understand that.
I could imagine being hurt about it.
Oh, hurt? No. Also, we were working so hard. Anything that happened outside the show, we were like, what? We could never come up for air to really get outside of ourselves. We were only on the set.
You're doing what, 24 a year?
24 a year.
Ooh.
For a decade, basically. And so we had 6 weeks off. I remember that noise being outside of us. We were in such a bubble with our crew and each other. We can only talk to each other about like, doesn't this suck?
Yeah,
we
of course.
Can't really complain.
Right.
But I remember going to, I don't know if it was me and Felicity or me and Nicolette, but we had to go to London for press. I remember going to London and we're pulling up to our hotel and there's fans for blocks, but like, oh, I wonder what's happening here. Is there a concert happening? And then we get to the hotel and it's like, ah! I asked the driver, I was like, oh my God, who's here? And he goes, you.
Who's here?
No, I mean, is it like U2, Madonna?
Is 007 inside?
Somebody's in this hotel
Yeah.
that these people are trying to get to. And he was so confused that I was confused.
Yeah. Right.
Because I tell you, I didn't understand it. So all that stuff of we're fighting, even like number one show, you're amazing, good and bad, it didn't penetrate because we were working and I was exhausted. We worked 18-hour days. We would have photo shoots on the weekends.
The machine was just running.
Yeah. And Marcia would say that every time we'd have a hiatus and we'd come back to our first table read, she's like, plug us in because you have no control of your schedule. Yeah. You can't go to the gynecologist.
Yes.
You can't go to the dentist. It's hard. She's like, you're plugged in for 11 months and then they unplug you and you can kind of, But people ask me that a lot. Are like, were you guys really fighting? I was like, God, I forgot that was a thing. It was a thing. It was a big thing.
Yeah. I don't think I was savvy enough, though, at the time to recognize, oh, this is what they do every time.
To women.
To women.
When women of a certain age as well. But I remember when I hosted SNL and Tina Fey, we spoofed it where she's like, let's spoof you guys fighting and blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, that'd be funny. It was a thing because if it made a skit on SNL, then you know you were in pop culture.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate.
You've arrived.
I'll say it probably was just that Teri also, because she was the highest paid and she came in the show, she was initially the star, that probably did kind of, there's a possibility that it was, you know, jealousy, as we saw in our Charmed videos that we did with Alyssa Milano. Like she was getting the most, you know, center and stuff because she was a bigger star at the time. So that could have just been it. And the other girls just kind of clicked up on her as well. But also it could have just been that Teri was a loner and didn't really want to be mixy in Hollywood. Because in a lot of her interviews I saw, she was pretty down to earth, you know, pretty down to earth. She was pretty frugal with her money and stuff like that. She was a pretty down to earth woman that didn't seem to be too Hollywoody and probably wasn't going along to get along with the writers, production team. You know, there's a lot of rituals as we have found in this industry, and everybody else was willing to, and they probably just didn't like that, you know, because it was said that even the staff was avoiding looking at her and just didn't really like her. And it reminds me of one of our stars, Ann Baxter. I did a video on Ann Baxter a while back. You guys can check that out if you want to, but a lot of her peers in Hollywood just didn't like her because she just was a loner as well, didn't really want to go to the parties, didn't want to play the games, didn't want to, you know, and just kind of distanced herself, did the work and stuff. But then it also doesn't explain with Teri Hatcher in the Vanity Fair cover, getting the outfit first and this and that. So there might be catty there. I'm just, you know, trying to give her a benefit of a doubt here, but comment below your thoughts. What do you guys think? Desperate Housewives enjoyed a stellar 8-season run, and as the final season approached, the ladies planned to renegotiate their contracts together to gain some power. But guess who decided to go solo? Yep, Teri struck her own deal before the others, leaving them a bit weaker in negotiations. In a later interview about her time on the show, Teri insisted she was respectful and generous throughout the 8 years, claiming she went beyond generous. But with all that drama, you have to wonder if that's just her version of the story. What a whirlwind, and I guess that kind of put the nail in the coffin on whether she was a villain behind the scenes or not, to negotiate your contract without the other stars. You know, that's kind of crazy. And we know a lot of shows, the stars would stick together and go negotiate together, you know, from like Friends, Living Single, all of that shows that we saw, the stars would just get together and go together and be stronger together. But Teri was always like looking out for herself and what you would label not a girl's girl. I guess that's kind of like, ugh, yikes. Towards the end of her run on the show, Teri Hatcher found herself in a bit of a pickle, physically that is. She was battling some intense pain in her left arm, and doctors were scratching their heads trying to figure out what was wrong. After a lot of back and forth, they finally diagnosed her with a rare condition called frozen shoulder. Never heard that before, but it apparently, you know, just leaves your shoulder like frozen. On top of all that physical pain, Hatcher had to deal with some seriously scandalous stuff from her past coming back to haunt her. Comedian Andrew Dice Clay, whose biography dropped in 2014, bringing with it a whole slew of allegations that cast a shadow on Hatcher's character. According to him, their story began on the set of the 1993 flick Brain Smasher, A Love Story, a movie that was as forgettable as it was subpar, but she looked fabulous in it. But the chemistry between them, not so much. Clay spilled the tea about their instant attraction on set, which has all the makings of a steamy romance except for one little detail. He was a married man. They didn't jump into bed right away. Instead, they kicked things off with some spicy phone calls. You can only imagine how torturous it must have been to see each other daily while keeping it hot and heavy over the phone. So eventually, they gave in to temptation and had a night together that Clay described as out of this world. But just as quickly as it began, they promised each other they'd never speak again about it or do anything else. And just to throw a wrench in the works, Clay soon found out his wife was pregnant, which likely put the nail in their affair's coffin. Now let's talk about her marriage. Hatcher tied the knot with Marcus Leithold from Butler, Pennsylvania on June 4th, 1988, but they called it quits the very next year. Then on May 27th, 1994, she married actor John Tenney, and they welcomed their daughter Emerson. In 1997, to the outside world, they looked like the perfect little family. But behind closed doors, it was a different story. Hatcher opened up about the lack of affection in her marriage, and she even knew the exact moment she conceived her daughter, because she and Tenney had only been intimate once that year. They divorced in March 2003, and the California divorce laws didn't do her any favors. She had to split everything down the middle, giving Tenney half of what she brought into the marriage and what she earned during it. She felt that was downright unfair, especially since she believed she was pulling more weight both at work and at home. And if that wasn't messy enough, custody of little Emma became another battlefield for the ex-couple. Their divorce agreement stated they were supposed to share custody, but they still ended up duking it out in court over who would get her during holidays. So 2 divorces and 1 scandalous affair later, Hatcher remained single. Back in the early 2000s, she told reporters that the dating scene scared her. While most people fear heartbreak with her history, can you blame her for being freaked out?
Well, there were some pretty low points within my marriage because I really wanted to make it work. It was really painful when I finally decided that I was going to have to make this choice to get out of this marriage, or, life was just not going to be anything.
You said you're a failure with men. You beautiful creature. How can you say that?
Because it hasn't worked out, and I'm willing to kind of take the blame. I get to know someone, and they can be great, and that can kind of be moving forward, and then I just get scared.
That it won't work?
Yeah, that it won't work, or that it'll hurt too much to really fall deeply in love with somebody, and then what if they leave, and all that.
As of late, the tabloids have been a bit of a bully to her, spreading rumors that she is poor and living out of her van.
Tabloids have made Teri their target, saying she's broke, homeless, and living in a van. Teri says that's not true.
The way this works is, a couple of weeks ago, the magazine reached out to my publicist to say, we have these paparazzi photos of Teri at the beach, which, by the way, I was filming drive-bys for my show. We have the van traveling around Los Angeles, and we were doing some beach drive-bys. They look beautiful. But so they had these photos of me being in the van, and they said they were going to run this story about me being broke, and I think they even used the words and homeless and whatever. And my lawyer and my publicist said, categorically not true. You can't print that. She's doing a YouTube show. That's her van. She has many homes in many states all over the country. There's nothing about this that's true. And then they went and ran it anyway. And that is even more egregious, that it was so purposefully hurtful. Again, the reason it's important for me to talk about it is because, also on that cover was a picture of Sharon Stone, beautiful picture of Sharon Stone, tripping, I guess, on a curb, like many people do. And the caption is, near 60, Sharon Stone collapses. And it just made me think, we, as actresses age, as women age in our society, magazines like this, they're fostering a culture of disrespect, of trying to take down and take away the power of women who have accomplished a lot in their careers, who have a lot still to say.
She did admit to having an online shopping addiction in the past, but that's the extent of her speaking on her financial woes. And she did deny vehemently that, come on guys, no, I'm not poor, I'm living pretty good. Comment below your thoughts on this video, and comment below also what other Desperate Housewives star would you like me to do a video on, because that really was my show back in the days. That I'm not a TV person anymore. Once you do as many documentaries as I have on these people, it's just entertainment, movies, TV shows, and even songs, they're just not the same. I can't be entertained by them anymore. There's just too much behind it. But let me know what other stars you guys would like me to do a breakdown for. I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.